forcing more than 5,400 U.S. flight cancellations, according to FlightAware. Already this morning, there are more than 1,700.
Making air travel right now an exercise in frustration.
And travel industry analyst Henry Hardevelt says no one knows how long it will take airlines to recover because it's a function of the virus. I'm Julie Walker.
For the kids, it's time to return to school because COVID cases are soaring. Mask requirements are returning in some school districts that had dropped them. Some are planning to vastly ramp up virus testing among students and staff, and a small number of school systems are switching to remote learning for the time being. Search teams have been looking for 2 people still missing after that massive Colorado wildfire near Denver. Those who survived but lost their homes are sorting through what's left. Rex Hickman and his wife in Louisville lost their home, but listen to what he told us.
We know how fortunate we are. We have each other, we have great friends, wonderful family. So many people have got to be suffering much more than we are, and we feel for them.
Brazilian President Bolsonaro has been taken to a hospital in Sao Paulo. They think he has an intestinal obstruction. His doctor says he had stomach pains. That's according to news media reports. This is AP News. And now, the Rose Parade. The AP's Margie Zarletta has this.
The Rose Parade returned to Pasadena, California for New Year's Day this year after it was canceled last year because of the coronavirus pandemic. Leanne Rimes kicked off the 133rd edition of the Rose Parade with LeVar Burton as Grand Marshal, tape courtesy of ABC 7 Los Angeles. Jimmy Allen, American Idol Lane Hardy, and 20 marching bands also performed. Parade staff also gave a nod to longtime narrator Betty White, who died last week. The crowd was smaller than in past years. Los Angeles County has seen a drastic rise in COVID-19 infections. Healthcare network Kaiser Permanente pulled 20 frontline workers from its float because they could not be spared for the parade.
The AP's Margie Zarletta reporting. If you're traveling home by car today, gas is $3.29 a gallon, 8 cents a gallon cheaper than a month ago. I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
Well, it didn't take too long into our first workday of the new year to start getting busy. In Woodridge, an accident 75th Street at Woodward Avenue. In Lombard, North Avenue at 355, that crash is still there. Southbound 57, an accident reported after Manhattan-Monee Road. Reports of a tow truck assisting in a tire change that was struck by a semi there. Northbound 294 at St. Charles Road, still a stall blocking the right lane there. But as for the expressways, the Edens, Kennedy, Eisenhower, Stevenson, the Dan Ryan, those are all clear, and all the rest of the tollways are looking pretty good. No problems to report. And that's traffic. I'm Bonnie Green.
This is WCPT 820. Listen in Chicago on 820 a.m. or stream us live on WCPT820.com, the TuneIn radio app, or tell Alexa or Google to play WCPT.
I need postcards printed and designed. Oh, and a targeted direct mail campaign.
It's possible at Staples.
I need my presentation printed, bound, and perfect.
Also possible. Your local Staples store can help your business navigate the future of work with custom printed sales and marketing materials. Now get 25% off custom printed labels, postcards, flyers, brochures, and more when you spend $60 or more. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store. Ends 1/29 in-store only. See staples.com/print for details.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
And good morning. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on this first Monday of a brand new year. Yes, it is still the Santita Jackson Show, and yes, you are still stuck with me. Good morning, you all. My name is Brandon Johnson. I've had the rare opportunity of filling in for Santita over the last several days, and I am grateful to be with you all again. This official, I guess, snowy, cold Monday morning. How about it this morning, you all? No, for those of you who are accustomed to waking up at this incredible hour, and not because, you know, you have somewhere to be necessarily, or maybe it's just part of your routine, but especially if you have somewhere to be, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, really, because you are a dedicated soul to wake up this time of morning and whatever it is that you do to get there this early and to be available to people, especially if you work and you engage with other humans. That's pretty special. Now, if you engage with non-humans, I want you to call in right now because I have lots of questions for you. 773-763-9278. It's WCPT 8:20 a.m. where the facts do matter. Again, just want to remind you all, this is the baddest, the largest, most progressive space in all of the world. We have it right here in the city of Chicago, but our reach is far beyond the city of Chicago. So thank you to all of our listeners from all over the state of Illinois, the Midwest, West Coast, East Coast, especially those of you who wake up 4 o'clock in the morning to check out Santita Jackson. You all are pretty special and dynamic, and thank you for hanging in there with us. Of course, whenever Santita Jackson calls, I'm available. It's just that simple. Thank you, Santita, for your work and your encouragement over the years. You have been just a great light and an incredible soul and a supporter of me and my family. So we appreciate that. And my family is forever grateful for you and your leadership and being steady. So with that, you all, I'm going to do my very best over the next couple of hours to try to inform you, engage you a little bit. I know that there's enough going on for us to talk about over the next couple of hours. I'm going to do my best not to just talk for 2 hours, but I can, and I don't mind. That's what I'm here for. So if you just want to sit back and chill and just listen and absorb the information, we're good with that. If you want to check us out on social media, we're there as well. Santita has a great social media following too, so thank you for jumping in online and relaying your comments, your hopes, your desires, the things that are frustrating to you. We take it all. We listen to all of it. We do. And we'll try to get some of that on the air this morning. I've learned over the last, few days, doing this work, how patient you have to be. And when I say I learned, I mean, I'm not too old. I don't think I am to be in a constant state of reflection. And being patient, is not really, it's not, I don't want you to think that I've learned to be patient as it relates to filling in for Santita Jackson. It's not that. It's just that with all that's going on in the news, particularly as it relates to our health and our safety, and that includes our public safety, that confronting and dealing with the issues of life, require tremendous perspective and reflection. You can't go in life alone. If I've learned nothing else over the course of this last year or two, what has brought you to a place of humility and understanding? And you can certainly weigh in. There are conversations that are being had right now on whether or not our country is leaning too far towards progressive politics. It's hard not to get emotional about that because, again, I stated this and I'll say it again, that progressivism, as I understand it in this country, has always been related to what do we do with the Negro? That's the question that was raised, decades ago. Because, look, our country, I remember when I was teaching in the classroom and my students were often surprised, sometimes even overwhelmed by the connection of American history to the struggle for Black liberation and American history and as it relates to the rest of the world, and particularly the continent of Africa, from whence it, the free labor force from whence it really began to explode. Now we know, obviously, Native Americans and those who are indigenous to this land were used as slave labor, and then that didn't work anymore. I'm going to fast forward, and no disrespect to our indigenous brothers and sisters, but I guess I probably should not assume that everybody understands and knows the history of that. But I think the point of this short little monologue here is that when you have, whether it's a Chris Matthews or a Sean Hannity, I guess it doesn't really matter to me, when people see our liberation as going too far, that's a problem, sisters and brothers. Does it matter to you all where you get your news? Does it matter? And I'm raising that question, obviously, for people who are literally tuned into WCPT 820 AM. Certainly, I guess it matters enough for you to tune into this station, and we appreciate that. And we're on and popping, and I listen to WCPT throughout the day. There are those who certainly are engaging and provoke, critical thinking. But, I know I've thrown a couple of questions out there. Does it matter to you where you get your news source? I think folks know what I'm going to talk about today in more detail, and I'm going to get to that. But I just want this sort of intro time to really be reflective about how important it is for us to have a constant state of, we have to be diligent and vigilant, quite frankly, as it relates to building a more progressive movement. Because absent progressivism in this country, people, might take it for granted. I don't. I'm not in this chair. If a generation ago someone said, well, maybe we're going too far to the left, maybe we're becoming too progressive. And when you wake up on a morning like today, and I'm grateful for a new year. I'm grateful for a new day. It doesn't matter what day it lands on. If it's a new day, I'm grateful for it. If it happens to be the first Monday of a new year, I don't look at days especially more important. I don't. Every single day is important to me. It's a chance, an opportunity for me to get it right, for me to build consensus with people around me, for me to be a little bit closer to those that I love and cherish. And those who love me can be closer to me. And those who love me, who are annoyed by me, it could be another day for them to build up barriers and walls to keep distance from me. There's only a couple of relatives like that. I mean, I think they like me. It's just more or less like they just want me to back up off of them. Those are mostly my cousins who are Republican. I know. I got a couple of them. I don't know what happened to them. It's my dad's side of the family. Sorry, Dad. 773-763-9278. But every day is new. It's an opportunity to gain a little bit more insight and knowledge. And so, when I wake up, when I woke up today, same thing, refreshed, looking forward to coming into the station, but reflective of what it means to build a progressive movement that is meaningful. Because today, someone has and will wake up hungry. People wake up without somewhere to live. I don't know. I'll just cut to it. I'm not quite sure when people say that we're becoming, far more aggressive or too progressive or moving too far to the left. As long as there's homelessness, as long as there's police brutality, as long as there are budgets that prioritize militarization over housing, I'm going to have a tough time accepting, that critique of our ideological frame in this context. And look, it's not as if those of us who are fighting for a more progressive state are fighting for anything brand new. And maybe that's part of our challenge. Now, some would argue that within the last 30 years, we've been far more aggressive as it relates to the environment. Those of us in the Midwest should appreciate that a little bit more, at least over the course of the last couple of months, considering that the snow essentially just begun, and we got some. And so now we're going to move into, what we will always anticipate as the severe time of winter. But we can see, you can feel it. You know that the climate is shifting. That's without a doubt. I don't know if you have to be a scientist to be able to confirm that. I got a 9-year-old. He seems to be very aware of it. He's also aware of a lot of other things. But the truth of the matter is that when more children are waking up homeless, just right here in Chicago, we don't have to go outside of our own city. We know that there are at least 20,000 documented students in the Chicago public schools alone that are officially categorized as homeless youth. There is an organization on the west side of Chicago that we are paying closer attention to, and I'm grateful that they are on the west side of Chicago, the Covenant House. They provide temporary housing for young people, and particularly those who are 16 to 24-year-olds. It's a very tough stage of development for young people. And make no mistake about it, just because your child or someone is 20, 21, 22 years old, there's still a whole lot of development that needs to happen there. I can attest to that. God bless my mother-in-law. My wife and I, we were at that age when we got married. Terrible. I feel so bad for her. If my child were to come to me right now at 20, 21 years old, talking about to get married, I can't say what I would do to them because I'm on the air. I'm just saying there's a whole lot of development that needs to take place there. What were we thinking, honey? We got married at such a young age. We clearly weren't. Here we are, though, 23 years later. Love you, honey. She's somewhere getting things together and in order, mostly me. But the Covenant House, 16 to 24-year-olds, 60% of those youth that are homeless, 60% of them are black. Do you all believe that we are becoming, that the country is moving too far to the left? I just have to ask the question. I know it's probably not the best question to ask at 6 o'clock in the morning. I know it's a little bit earlier somewhere else, but at least here in Chicago, 6 a.m. But that's the critique that's coming from those who say they stand for working people. You're seeing an explosion of resistance of workers across the country. There's still a fight to get workers at Walmart organized, Amazon organized. These folks are standing up to the boss, to the bosses. And that progressive movement to get workers their rights, that's a fight that should never end. It should never end. And so if folks are wondering sort of the impetus behind this question, is that because there is a frame in this country that those of us who are fighting for economic security and to stabilize our economy through an equity lens, that in and of itself is a threat to our democracy, and therefore moving in that direction becomes, it's too much, it's too far, it's too soon. Now, look, I know our country gets a pass at times just because of the youthful nature of our country. We ain't been around a very long time. We've been around long enough to know what oppression looks like, though. Come on, can I get a witness this morning? We've seen oppression. We know what that looks like. It's quite severe, in fact. And so raising this question because you still have income inequality that still separates men from women. And I know we're working to address it, but you still have housing insecurity. I think that the wage gap between those who are unionized and those who are not, that's pretty severe. People are fighting through a political economy that has seen tremendous growth over the course of death. I mean, your largest corporations have made, in some instances, an unprecedented amount of capital at a time in which people are looking for housing, looking for jobs, at a time in which there's still, though there's a pause on it, that there's still debt as it relates to our education. I've expressed this before. It's very personal, but my wife and I, we borrowed a considerable amount of money to get educated. It's what we were told we had to do. You could be all you could be. Go to school, get you an education. So we wouldn't got several degrees. They are expensive. More expensive than our home. At this rate, our home will be paid for before our student debt is paid off. Not to mention, the amount of money that we once upon a time had to spend just in childcare alone. What I'm saying is the median income here in Chicago, Cook County, we're talking $74,000, $75,000. That's what a family of four. And yet the cost of living continues to surpass what our wages present. And that gap continues to grow. There are homes that are being purchased all around my wife and I. We're talking about the west side of Chicago and Austin. They're being purchased for well over $350,000, $400,000. I don't know who's able to afford those kind of homes. I just don't. I can't. I am serving as a Cook County Commissioner in a district where Garfield Park has been described as a developing country because the violence and the poverty per capita mirrors that of a developing nation. And yet there are folks out there who can afford just a mile and a half away a home for $400,000. What I'm simply offering is I'm not mad at you if you can't. I'm not. I am curious about the line of work that you're in, because perhaps I should be directing my children in that line of work. Because I ain't changing at this point. Like what I do is what I do at this point. At my age, like if I do anything else, it's going to be something ridiculous. If I hit a midlife crisis, maybe I'll just get my own truck and just start selling snow cones or something on the back of it. Just something real. And not that if you sell snow cones is ridiculous. I think that if you do that as a means of, well, let me just stop digging. Look, I support small businesses. I'm just saying that I'm not at this juncture in my life with 3 kids, just can't afford to take that kind of risk right now. And I'm sure there's great stories out there. And I've heard them. That's just not going to be my story. It's just not. Mostly because my wife is not going to allow me to have, and not that I need my wife's permission. See, what I'm trying to say is, this is what happens when people don't, talk to you a lot when you're a kid. You grow up and you end up filling in for radio hosts. And then you just run off at the mouth. Now, I do worry about that with one of my children. You have a child in your house and you look at them and it's like, dang it, that one's like me. I feel bad for that one. I got one of those in my house. Every time I look at this child, I'm just like, oh gosh, if only you would have turned out like your mother. What I'm saying though is that the type of economy that we are existing in right now, sisters and brothers, is leaving a whole lot of people behind. That's the point that I'm getting at. And so when I hear, the accusations that somehow our ideological line is too much, explain that. Like, you just got to explain that. That asking the wealthy in this country who have made unprecedented amounts of dollars in the midst of death, it's 800,000 Americans, you all, are dead. And ostensibly they would have been here otherwise, absent this virus. I think that's a fair conclusion we can come to just based upon the severity of this disease and the suddenness of this disease and how vicious this disease is. And in the midst of that, we're talking about a global shutdown, y'all. And we know that this country had to shut down in order to try to mitigate the spread and the harm that this disease has caused and created and still has caused. And it's still creating, simply because I don't believe that as a government, as a body of people, we're working with all due expediency and urgency to reshape an economy that actually works for the people who have been set at the margins for generations. Here's an opportunity for us to get it right. I actually believe, because I do have an accountability system that's far bigger than a radio audience. It's far bigger than a constituency. I believe I'm ultimately accountable to the one that made life possible. And what I'm disturbed by is that every time we get a chance to get something right, and there's a signal for us to get it right, we've all said that there's a big light that's shining upon our country, our world, where the poverty-stricken communities, the marginalized communities, the communities that have been left oppressed and in turmoil, and even those who have profited because of that type of tumultuous policies that have caused tremendous harm that has rippled through communities for generations, that light has given us an opportunity to actually begin to deal with the structural inequalities and begin to break down those barriers that keep people out from this economy. We have an opportunity to do that right, and folks are making excuses right now, telling us why we cannot. It's too fast. It's too much. This entire region was swept through within a matter of a handful of years, removing folks who are indigenous to the land off the land. Sickness, disease, war, torment, torture, wiped them out, built an entire infrastructure from another country as they poured in hundreds of millions of dollars in resources to strip away people from the very land in which we stand on now. And yet somehow, because I believe that people should have a right to live somewhere that they can afford, that's too much too fast. All right. It's the Santita Jackson Show, you all. Good morning. Somewhere in the world, it is 6:27. I appreciate you all hanging out with me. It is the first Monday of the brand new year. My name is Brandon Johnson, Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, filling in for the great Santita Jackson. Today, I'll be doing that for the next hour and a half, you all. Why don't you call in if you're still up for it, if your voice can handle it. I can handle it. Are we moving too far to the left, you all? Our progressive position and stance and cause and our progressive movement, is it too much for folks? Let's get into that in the second hour, you all. We got to talk COVID. All over the country, people are returning to schools. At least here in Chicago, folks who run the school system says that they're very comfortable with it. Are you? 773-763-9278 is just me and Devin in the studio today. If there's anybody else in here, we probably should know. It's a little dark in the hallways, though. Good morning, you all. Santita Jackson Show. I'm Brandon Johnson. Get up, y'all. Stay with me, okay? I'll be right back.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter. Mind over matters.
Dr. Amy Harris. Nuan, as you know, this show is about challenging you to think differently, to make different choices in your life, to take action, to create positive outcomes in your life. So I want to challenge you to look at your life holistically. Where am I satisfied? What areas need attention? And then go to work, take in action what you need to do.
Mind Over Matters with Dr. Amy Harris Nuan. Sundays at 10 a.m. on WCPT 820.
Why does Walgreens offer copays as low as $0 and 90-day refills? Because we care about Medicare, so you don't have to. I mean, do you really care to hear me go on about same-day prescription delivery making your life easier? Or how there's a pharmacy expert available 24/7 and one-click refills? Well, I just did anyways. Fill your Medicare prescriptions with Walgreens and save.
$0 copays apply to Tier 1 generic drugs and select plans with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Restrictions apply. See walgreens.com/Medicare for complete details.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
Accidents still a problem in quite a few of the suburbs. In Woodridge, 75th Street at Woodward Avenue, that accident still there. And we have an accident in Bloomingdale now, Schick Road at Gary Avenue. In Bartlett, West Stearns Road west of Munger Road, a crash there too. In Lombard, that accident still there, North Avenue at 355. And 57 northbound after Pauling Road, a semi struck a tow truck that was assisting a tire changer. Now, no injuries reported, but the right lane is still blocked there. And on the northbound tri-state, a right lane blocked at St. Charles Road with a stalled vehicle, that right lane blocked. The rest of our roads, what's left of them, those are all pretty good. The expressways and tollways mostly. That's traffic. I'm Bonnie Green.
Amy Goodman reports on the news stories rarely covered by the corporate media.
In Chile, security forces shot dead 2 indigenous Mapuche leaders during clashes in the province of Arauco. The southern coastal region has been under a state of emergency, with the Chilean government deploying 2,000 soldiers to the region as it attempts to suppress the Mapuche community and their fight to recover their ancestral lands.
Democracy Now!, weekday evenings at 11 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, and Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with experienced branch staff at over 250 locations, so you get the product you're looking for. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, good morning, you all. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you, Santita Jackson and friends. You all are our dynamic crew. Thank you for joining us on social media. This morning, you can check us out, WCPT 820 AM. We're on Facebook. We're Facebook Live. And we're here for you all. The phone lines are available to you all. I'm just reflecting. Look, Chris Matthews, I'm not sure if you all saw this. His show, MSNBC, was it Hardball? He said he tried to warn us. That's what he said he's trying to do. And he says, he appreciates faith, but he says that politics have gone too far left. 2022 could be a great time to show what we've learned. I've tried to warn we were headed too far left. That's Chris Matthews. Now, this is MSNBC, ostensibly, you all. That's the station that, if you're going to watch something, that tends to be the place where, people who are not moderate tend to go. And certainly, if you're on the right, you're not listening to you're not on that station. And I'm not saying that they don't have a variety of views there, but he is offering a warning, you all. That's like when someone says I'm trying to warn you, it's like, I don't know, Devin. It's like, are the Decepticons coming? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is he? I mean, he's literally saying that we are going to. We're in an economic crisis right now where you literally have like abject poverty. That school communities far before the pandemic broke out were already under-resourced, underfunded. the wage gap between your CEOs and those who work on the front lines, 300, 400 times difference. Like the average price of a home in New York, I mean, this was a few years ago now. I'm sure it's gone up $1.1 million. You want to buy a house in California, Los Angeles in particular, we're talking, what, $797,000 average price? You had teachers in San Francisco making $100,000 a year and qualify for food assistance. I'm just saying, you know, so when he is offering this warning, is this more about white men? I'm just going to put it out there. Let me just do it, okay? I mean, look, we're up now. We might as well just talk about it. Is this feeding into this fragility and this fear that is happening amongst people who are not black or brown? You know, white men becoming more indignant about their status in life because they don't just simply get to dominate their ideas, their way of thinking. Could it be that there's a certain element of our population that are just becoming increasingly more afraid of what it means to live in a society where they're not the dominant state within the culture? Are they afraid that the harm that they've caused, that will be, you know, they will receive that harm? Look, I'm not an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth kind of person. I'm not. Unless we're dealing with siblings. Then I think the rules are different. If your sibling hits you, you hit them back. It's just a rule, especially if you grew up in a house like mine. It was 10 of us. You just couldn't go and run and tell. You know what I'm talking about. If you're in a big family, you could get in trouble in a large family for coming to tell on someone because it's just bothering. So sometimes as siblings, you just take matters into our own hands. We didn't want to bother our parents with our, you know, rivalries. Mean headlocks. Brian's in Joliet. Thank you for waking up this morning for the Santita Jackson Show. We're going too far to the left, Brian. The Decepticons are coming.
Pardon, Brandon?
I said, are we going too far to the left, Brian?
Oh, no. Quite the opposite, my friend. Well, you remember what happened about a year ago on January 6th? That was a fascist attempt to violently overthrow the U.S. government. That's right-wing, not progressive. And for the last 40 years, since the beginning of that evil Ronald Reagan and his equally evil administration, it's been kind of all downhill since then. However, we must be as objective or honest as possible. For the majority of the black population who did vote, they did vote consistently correctly, unlike the majority of the white population. And we speak of moving too far to the left or progressive. I ask you the question, how could that possibly be? We can't even get, it was going to be a $6 trillion human infrastructure, then it went down to 3.5, now it's down to about 1 trillion, and the U.S. probably ain't even going to get that because of these turncoats, Manchin and Sinema, who might as well jump to the Republican Party. So how on earth can anyone say we're moving too far progressive?
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Brian. I appreciate you waking up this morning. I appreciate all of you who are hanging out with us on the Santita Jackson Show. You can follow Santita. She's on Twitter at Santita J. I'm actually on Twitter too, Brandon CCD1. Yeah. So that's why I'm raising this question about, you know, whether or not that this is, you know, is this more of a manifestation of fragility and fear, you know, where things are not going your particular way. I actually think that there's been more of a Republican revolution since the 90s. I mean, I think about my sort of introduction to politics. Rodney King, That's my, the ideal of catching police brutality on video. Like, that was the video. I was in high school at the time, and we saw the outcry and the outbreak in the streets of Los Angeles, right? So like the notion that somehow today's politics are somehow sort of this radical left revolution. I actually think it's just the opposite. I think that there's more of an awakening right now of progressive politics, and whether or not Chris Matthews or anyone else can stand that's a different debate on whether or not you can actually stand the fact that people are saying, look, enough is enough. Look, we were in high school. When you think about those of us who are in some position of influence, and if you're wondering like where the impetus behind like our ideological frame, we saw brutality firsthand. We did. And in the 90s, I mean, this was the Clinton era where the 3 strikes and you're out, like that was, that promulgated, throughout the country, and it caused an explosion in what we now term as the prison industrial complex. Yeah, there were people who were making money at that time, but, the fact of the matter is it was also in the 90s when you begin to see the assault and the attack on public sector employees. And then by the time the 2000s came around, I mean, public employees had taken such a beating. And look, I'm not saying that Clinton did it by himself. Of course, this was ushered in through the 80s. As you mentioned, Brian, the Ronald Reagan era, that's my childhood. That is, my memory of Reaganomics is watching my father struggle 2 and 3 jobs to make sure that, all his kids could eat. I mean, we didn't grow up with, there certainly was no name brand anything in my home. I mean, I remember real struggle, real challenges, and the ends did not meet every month. I'll just say it like that. And I'm talking about bare necessities. And we weren't the poorest. We were classified as low income, so we could get free and reduced lunch, or free lunch. And to go to work every single day and not have enough, that's reality. And I'm not talking about not having enough for, like to go to Great America. Like that wasn't even wasn't even a question if we were going to take a vacation. We're talking about being able to participate in extracurricular activities. When I think about what my children are involved in, versus what we wish we could have signed up for in the 80s, I mean, it was a struggle. You go into the 90s, of course, again, you see real police brutality on video. The entire world saw it. It was without a question. It was excessive force, without a question. And again, this reaction to violence in the community, the reaction was lock them up, throw away the key. We're going to be tough and tougher and tougher on crime, which all that meant was you're going to continue to criminalize poor people and black folks. Do you understand like that? Look, you all, whether you agree with my experiences or not, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Do you understand? And so when Matthew runs off at the mouth talking about we're becoming too left, I am struggling with that frame, especially based upon what has happened over the last couple of years. I mean, we're talking about like Black death. Our senior citizens were dying at alarming rates right here in the city of Chicago, Cook County, state of Illinois, right? The first wave of this pandemic, you could attribute 50%, if not more, of the deaths to about 11 addresses. These nursing homes that our seniors were dying in, these nursing homes were already underfunded. The staff turnover was outrageous simply because these workers were not being protected. They did not have protective gear. They weren't being paid a livable wage, not a real one. I can go on and on and on. I'm saying that the real attack on our economy as we know it, at least those of us who are in our 40s, we've experienced police brutality. We've watched our loved ones get criminalized. We've watched our family members and our friends grow up in abject poverty. We watched how opportunities were only afforded to a handful of folks. Many of us tried to push our way through, and so now we're just mired and we're just overwhelmed by student debt. we're finally getting to a place where, we can afford a little something, but it's getting harder and harder. The economy is moving faster. The economic growth is moving faster than wages. And so as long as we continue to have like this real tussle, the only individuals that will be able to keep up with this type of economy are not the folks who are on the front lines. Grocery store workers every day, you all. Fast food workers, restaurant workers. Can I just remind folks, like when we talk about progressive politics, this is not like, like we create pies in the sky. We're talking about working families every single day who probably don't even listen to this station. Let's just be real. Because they're getting up and they're trying to figure out like life. There are families, and we'll get into this in the 7 o'clock hour. They're trying to figure out what to do in the next couple of hours. Because they don't know if they should send their kids to school or not. In fact, they actually know intuitively it's not a good idea to send their child to school this morning. But the economy is making it a requirement. And you have political leadership right now that are signifying that and codifying that with data points that continue to shift to meet whatever criteria that they want to establish. And so we're asking people to stay engaged. We're asking folks, don't give up. Stay the course, while in the midst of this economic boom for the wealthiest people in the world, the rest of us are trying to figure out if we're going to have enough toilet paper. Will I be able to pay my mortgage? Now, look, there's some assistance that has been moved through our economy, and I'm glad that there are folks who have been advocating for that, and we'll get into that, I promise you, because not all hope is lost. Trust me. Because if all hope was lost, I wouldn't be here this morning. Like, I didn't get up this morning because I just wanted to just get up. I got up with some purpose. And this is not where it ends for me today, by the way. Like, and it certainly didn't start with this. Like, there's real work to be done. There are folks who are counting on decisions that we as a collective will make in order to bring about a more just and an equitable society. That is the commitment every single day, you all. 773-763-9278. It is a great Monday morning. Despite the weather, despite the challenges, it's a great day to continue to move a more progressive left ideological frame that's going to bring liberation to all of us. It will. And there's truth in it. If you look at all of your progressive politics, and if you look at those who were in front, on the side, fighting for it, and you see the benefits of it. The fact that, again, we have real public accommodations. This is something that those of us who were formerly enslaved made it very clear that public education, transportation, housing, healthcare, and jobs, that these big five will actually help transform the very people who were in bondage. Public transportation is not just a thing to get people from point A to point B, but it's an economic engine that can actually help move the economy. When we think about health care for all, the families who are at most impacted by the failure to have access to quality health care are the very people who come from people who fought for it. I'm just saying, and look at the people who continue to benefit. There's not a single person in this country, whether you were born here or you found your way here as an immigrant, everyone in this country has benefited from the liberation of black folks. But progressive politics is tied to the very idea of giving us free. And we're not trying to like confine that or hide it or keep it in our pockets or make it or keep it a secret somehow or limit it to just folks who are descendants of slaves. I mean, come on. You know, some of the greatest voices on the planet found their greatest awakening when they begin to articulate the collective struggle between black, brown, and white folks. And here's the thing, you all, and this is why I do appreciate this station, because you're seeing the manifestation, you're seeing the fruit of that labor. Black folks, white folks, brown folks, all over this city, don't matter how they try to divide us, no matter how they try to create these fissures in between us, no matter how they try to deceive us, that our collective interest for liberation is tied to one another. We just can't be afraid to make sure that the folks who have been at the tip of the spear of every sort of economic downfall, we got to make sure that we're not hiding or keeping those folks away from the fruit of the labor. Don't think that you can just pass people up or speed by. Like, we do this together, you all. You don't get to have at the expense of my loss. That ain't the way. And don't allow like people like Chris Matthews or anybody else who's afraid that their way of thinking is not going to prevail and somehow their way of thinking is the only way to think. Don't be afraid of that presentation. And don't be afraid, as our brother just indicated. You know, we're coming up on an anniversary where there were Americans who attempted to overthrow America. Have mercy on us, Lord. Americans who are attempting to overthrow America. I just, when I think about the history of our struggle in this country, you all, when I think about the Black Panther Party, the movement to make sure that families had access to health clinics, to food, to jobs. When I think about the efforts of Fred Hampton going from neighborhood to neighborhood, talking to black folks, white folks, and brown folks to bring what he deemed as a rainbow coalition, the rainbow coalition that Reverend Jackson speaks of, that coalition is still alive today if we want it to be. So let's not be afraid. 773-763-9278. Do you believe that our politics are too progressive? Are they going too far to the left? I don't believe so. I believe as long as there are inequities that still exist within these systems, and in some instances, these systems have been used as tools of violence against people. We spend so much money, you all, to incarcerate people. We literally have $100 million blocks based on the investments that we have placed in incarceration. You have more invested in incarceration block by block in Austin than you do in the school system per student. Yo, I'm not making this up. This is actually documented, you all. You can't say we're moving too far to the left when you have an economy that works stronger or strongest when black folks are incarcerated versus when they are educated. Shouldn't we be alarmed by the fact that the amount of black folks that have been chased out of the city of Chicago? This once upon a time was a place where people migrated. What is happening to an economy where the people who have found political prowess and hope and camaraderie, people who have found stability, no longer feel that way, no longer experience that? Like this is what I mean by having a collective response and not being intimidated by individuals who are afraid of progress. Let's not be intimidated by those who are afraid of our progress. That our progress is not your loss. Your shared collective responsibility is the benefit of all. That's what this fight, that's what progressive politics are to me. Now, I know you all didn't wake up to get like a lecture on progressive politics. And look, I'm one person. I am. Maybe there are other views. I think I'm right. And it's look, I'll say this, and in this second hour, I do want to lift up the voices of our families and our teachers this morning who are preparing to send their kids back to school in the Chicago Public Schools. They don't have a plan. The mayor of Chicago has not demonstrated that she has a real plan for how to deal with the spread of COVID. I just believe that there should be more things on the table in order to consider so that families are not feeling insecure. I just believe that's what effective leadership does. You got to give people options and not false options. I mean, you got to put things on the table so that families that have questions have the ability to get those questions answered. And in the midst of a global pandemic where the rules continue to change day in and day out, man, it's horrific. You got to provide a little bit more comfort for folks. But what I will say is this, that the three things that I'm very proud of over the course of this year, serving as an elected official has brought a tremendous amount of joy to my personal life, but yet it has brought some level of anguish, because no matter what we do, it's not enough to just feel good in that moment. Why? Because there's always a need still to be met, yet to be met. And I do struggle with that. It's not because I'm not mad at the struggle. It's more or less like I want to help people. This is the bottom line. That's why I get up every single day. And this is not the trajectory. This is why I think it's important that we continue to fight for the things that we believe in. This is not something that I woke up and said I wanted to do. I wanted to teach the rest of my life. That was my life's goal. But the politics did not allow that to happen. And perhaps it was part of the ultimate plan that was always going to be there anyways. But to watch mayors of Chicago terrorize communities, and particularly in the midst of school closings, the firing of black educators, we had to take a stronger stance. We just did. And that stronger stance is not so much like we weren't standing like on like heavy principles. What it meant was we had to take more drastic risks. And so brother shaved and lined up my beard, put on an outfit, and more people voted for me than the other person. And so it's why we've been fighting to make sure that our budgets reflect our values. I still believe that there's still too much money in jails and incarceration. There is. I still believe that the carceral state has been used as a tool and a weapon of violence against poor people, and particularly black men. It has. We're living in a society where being progressive is somehow threatening. It's threatening that type of economic structure. That our economy only seems to survive when Black death is permanent. Do you understand, you all, what motivates us today? That if the only way in which your economy can survive is at the expense of that my life, that I have to die or get incarcerated, I can't be educated, that your economy only works in those circumstances, why wouldn't I wake up every single day to debunk that, to dismantle that, to destroy that? I have to. My life is literally on the line. There are lives on the line right now, you all, sisters and brothers, when we think about what it means to be progressive, whether it's the environment, whether it's housing, whether it's transportation, jobs, education. If we're not calling for the wealthy in this country to pay their fair share in taxes, if we're not calling for a healthcare system that is not just affordable, it's free, housing that we can afford based upon the jobs that we're able to get. These are the type of values and principles that we have to continue to push. There are homeless children who are waking up right now who have so much insecurity, so much trauma. And what are we doing to alleviate that, to address that, to confront it, to combat it? I tell you what we're doing. We're getting organized. It is the Santita Jackson Show, you all, on this fine Monday morning. It is the first Monday of a brand new year, you all, and you're hanging out with us. I appreciate you all so much. I really do. 773-763-9278. I'm with you all. And so in the next hour, Pedro Martinez, he is the CEO of Chicago Public Schools. And he says, I'm very comfortable with the conditions of our school buildings. Very comfortable. Are you? So there are hundreds of thousands of folks who are prepared to go into buildings today without any real course, no real plan about how we deal with the spread of this virus and what we're going to do with sort of the inevitable nature of this virus. When we come back, let's dig into that a little bit, you all. So glad to be with you all. It's WCPT 820 AM where the facts matter. It is the Santita Jackson Show. My name is Brandon Johnson, Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, filling in for Santita, y'all. Good morning.
Hey, I'm Tom, host of the Consumer Guide Car Stuff podcast. Join us Sundays at 1 p.m. as the editors of Consumer Guide Automotive look at what matters most to people who own, love, or simply have to live with automobiles. Listen in for the latest news, great guests, expert analysis, and occasionally irreverent takes on what's happening in the auto world. We'll try and entertain you and maybe even save you a little money. That's the Consumer Guide Car Stuff podcast, Sundays at 1 p.m. right here on WCPT AM 820.
Why does Walgreens offer copays as low as $0 and 90-day refills? Because we care about Medicare, so you don't have to. I mean, do you really care to hear me go on about same-day prescription delivery making your life easier? Or how there's a pharmacy expert available 24/7 and one-click refills? Well, I just did anyways. Fill your Medicare prescriptions with Walgreens and save.
$0 copays apply to Tier 1 generic drugs and select plans with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Restrictions apply. See walgreens.com/Medicare for complete details.
Nature Valley sweet and salty bars help you make the most of your outdoor time. From the backyard to the slopes and anywhere in between. Enjoy a sweet and salty bar wherever you are.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. COVID cases are soaring, and now bad weather is moving in across many parts of the nation. The combination is canceling more airline flights this morning. They're expected to feel the effects of a big snowstorm from the south all the way up the East Coast. The Washington, D.C. area could get 10 inches of snow. The National Weather Service's David Roth.
Heavy snow is expected across a wide swath of central Virginia, southern Maryland, Delaware, and southern New Jersey, or a large area of 4 to 10 inches is currently forecast.
This bad weather hits just as millions of Americans try to return home from the holidays and kids start to go back to school. The AP's Julie Walker.
Over the weekend, thousands of flight cancellations worldwide. A winter storm that hit the Midwest made Chicago the worst place in the country for travelers like Sylvia Robinson, who spoke with ABC 7.
As long as I'm not spending the night here, I'm good.
Airlines also blame staffing shortages on increasing COVID infections. Industry analyst Henry Hartevelt says no one knows how long it will take them to recover.
The recovery is a function of the virus.
United is offering triple pay to pilots who pick up open flights, and Spirit double pay for cabin crews. I'm Julie Walker.
Because of the rising number of COVID infections, some school districts are bringing back mask requirements. Some are planning to ramp up virus testing among students and staff, and a few are switching to remote learning for just a short while, they hope. President Biden will meet virtually today with independent farmers and ranchers. He'll talk with them about how best to try to reduce food prices. Far-right Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene says Twitter is un-American. Twitter banned her personal account for violations of its COVID misinformation policy. This is AP News. The AP's Margie Zarletta with the top weekend movie.
The film Spider-Man No Way Home was the top box office draw for a third straight week.
They all die fighting Spider-Man.
Spider-Man No Way Home brought in $52.7 million this past weekend with a 3-week total of nearly $610 million.
I'll give you 3 weeks to get this show up and running.
Sing 2 earned $19.6 million in its second weekend, a strong showing given that family movies and those aimed at older audiences have not done well during the pandemic. The King's Man brought in only $4.5 million in its second week, but that's good enough for third place, followed by American Underdog and The Matrix Revolutions. I'm Margie Zarletta.
Listen to this. The average price of a used vehicle in this country in November, according to Edmunds.com, was $29,011, a dizzying 39% more than just a year earlier. I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
Accidents still a big problem this morning, but one has cleared in Woodridge, the accident 75th at Woodward, in Glendale Heights, North Avenue at Glen Ellen Road, in Bloomingdale, Schick Road at Gary Avenue, and in Bartlett, West Stearns Road, west of Munger Road. Problems on the northbound tri-state at St. Charles. Now, a vehicle is blocking the right lane there. Several vehicles, though, have flat tires from the debris in the road there. On the expressways, not much going on. The inbound Ryan does have a backup Cermak to the Circle interchange. And northbound I-57, still a right lane blocked after Pauling Road. A semi hit a tow truck that was assisting a tire changer. No injuries reported at this time. That's traffic. I'm Bonnie Green.
I feel like I'm being haunted by a pair of headphones. Everywhere I go is a creepy ad for headphones I looked at one time. I hate that feeling like I'm being watched. I downloaded DuckDuckGo and saw a difference right away. Take back your privacy online with DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
This whole wall needs to be shelving, too. This is a focal point in our restaurant.
Leilani's new restaurant will have the largest wine cellar in the city. She needs a robust sommelier with notes of procurement manager.
3 sections for France? I mean, this is the biggest
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Morning, Mama. How you feeling?
Great, and I'm ready for you today.
I'm checking in on ya. Morning meditation?
Check.
Dressed and ready to work out?
Check.
Check your blood pressure yet?
And check.
Boom! Great job, Mom. And about those gold earrings?
No, ma'am.
Now more than ever, it's important that we protect our hearts and the hearts of those we love. Monitor your blood pressure daily and help each other stay motivated. Rally your squad to take the online pledge at releasethepressure.org. Brought to you by the Release the Pressure Coalition and the Ad Council.
Hey, looking for a winning team on a winning station? You found it right here on WCPT 820 AM. Join the marvelous one, Dan Marver, the palacious one, Paul Shivari, Sports on the Couches, Mike Mercado, and yours truly, Devin Tingle, every Sunday at 9 p.m. for the Sports Cubicle, where the inmates run the asylum, and the boss, well, they yell at us on Monday morning because we're working overtime. Looking for your late night dose of sports talk radio? We're here. Join us on the Sports Cubicle, Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
And welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Good morning, you all. It's 7 o'clock here in the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago. Really good to be with you all again. Yet another day filling in for Santita Jackson, giving her a much-needed break. We're looking forward, of course, to her return. Grateful to Santita for her commitment to justice and giving voice and amplifying the voices of those of us who are fighting for justice. And I appreciate you, Santita, and what you mean to me and my family. We will always be grateful. Again, my name is Brandon Johnson, Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, filling in on this Monday morning, this nice and cold, snowy Monday morning. I actually do like the winter, to be honest with you. I know folks are going to start booing me now, but I do actually enjoy the winter. Now, here's the thing. Admittedly, when it gets, once it gets below 25, though, 25 degrees and up, I mean, I can tolerate that. Once it gets under 25 degrees, I could probably even get you down to 20 to 22 degrees. It just really depends on what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't mind the winter. What I do struggle with, though, are folks who grow up in the winter and then when it snows, they forget how to drive. It's like you have extremes here in Chicago. Everything is extreme. It is. It's like you got some people who are like afraid to accelerate, and then you got some folks who like drive through the snow like it's a sunny day in July. And there's just a bad combination. And then there's people like me who drive responsibly. So I am trying to dodge slow people and people who are driving fast. Let's not be extreme one way or the other. Be safe, but you can put people at harm in harm's way if you're actually moving too slow. So I want folks to be cautious, be thoughtful, be mindful of the world around you, though. But again, you all, it is the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you all who are hanging out, Santita Jackson and friends on social media. You all are pretty cool there. Thanks for saying good morning and not believing or feeling like you're stuck with me. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate you all handling my monologue for the last hour. I got another one, though, by the way, because it's not just, the weakness of people like a Chris Matthews, because that honestly, that is weak. And this is not to say that, folks like Chris Matthews ain't been through nothing. I mean, I don't know his personal story. He may have been through something, but it's very weak and tired for someone in his position, especially now, because I would imagine wherever he started, he's in a better place than where he started. I got to imagine. And it's weak for someone like him to suggest that my liberation is too far and too fast and too soon. Like, how much longer does he expect us to just remain in the state of despair? And as long as that type of, I guess, comfort for Chris Matthews, as long as whatever he's comfortable with, as long as that is like the barrier or the standard for comfort, despite what my lived experience has been and the people around me, like to me, like that's actually quite disturbing for someone who claims to be on the side of working people. That's all I'm saying. And so here, what we have in Chicago, you all, and if you just indulge me for a little bit here, families made decisions this morning. It's some very hard decisions about sending their kids back to school. And I know it was hard because it's something that my wife and I struggled with. There are lots of speeches that we give our children over the course of a day or a week. We do. My children, they just line up every day for speeches. Most of what you all hear on the radio, I practice with my children. I make them be the audience. No, I don't. That would be unfair. Well, sometimes I do. They don't know I'm practicing on them. Well, we give them pep talks, about being responsible. We try not to overly lecture them, but we do give them some pep talk. And we've had to be that much more thoughtful about how we engage with them around COVID-19. Mostly our engagement has been around like the real impact that this is having on people. It's life and death for folks. How it's affected people's income. When I go to the grocery store and they have an understanding of me going to the grocery store, not just picking up our essentials, but the people who serve in that capacity, that we're always thinking about those folks and their families. And they show up every single day, and we don't take that for granted. So in other words, some level of appreciation, but also some responsibility. We try not to overindulge we don't try not to overindulge in anything, because it's just, I find that it's important that we demonstrate some level of humility, and you do that by just recognizing people's humanity. And I'm not saying we get it right. I don't want to come across as self-righteous, though I know that it could sound like that. That's not what I'm trying to display here. What I'm just simply saying is that in everything that we do, we try to be thoughtful about the people who help make the things that are important to us, who help make that possible, that there are families that are attached to that work. That's all I'm saying. That it's just not a store clerk. That's someone's sister, someone's aunt, someone's mother. And just like you want to see daddy come home healthy and strong, someone is waiting for them to get off work too. Right? And so with that, we try to, do some things in moderation. So what I'm getting at is that this morning, and even over the course of the last couple of days, giving our children just yet another presentation around what it means to be safe. Now, here's the thing, though. So my wife and I are trying to prepare our children to return to a building that, quite frankly, it's going to be hard to detect whether or not this school community is safest. And just as much as I know it's a struggle for me, I know it's a struggle for many families. But here's the harsh reality, that this particular variant is contagious, that it is spreading through communities at a faster rate. I get updates as a Cook County Commissioner, and the updates that I've received, that line, that trajectory is straight up. It's almost as if this disease is spreading it's in an inevitable fashion, where and I try to be careful with my words, because I do believe that words have power, but it's hard to not project and see that this spread is going to reach so many more people in a way that it's just going to be hard to contain. And the people who we are entrusting to make political decisions for us, for our safety ultimately, and really for our lives, don't want to be honest with us. And so I raised this question about how comfortable are you? And maybe folks are just tired of it. And if you're just tired of it, I'll listen to you as well. Because I know we hear so many different things that comes from the mayor of Chicago and her team. And this is not just the mayor of Chicago, this is the mayor of New York. Heard him say it. sending kids back to school. Now, look, some of these school districts have far better testing operations than we do here in Chicago. Far better. I'm just going to say it. I don't believe that the mayor of Chicago, the leadership of the Chicago Public Schools is doing a good job as it relates to COVID-19. I don't. I remember when COVID was a real thing, like when it became a real thing, March of 2020, right? And there was a debate on whether or not schools should be shut down. The mayor of Chicago did not want to do it then. In fact, she didn't. She didn't do it. She didn't shut the schools down. The governor ordered the schools to shut down in the state of Illinois. We won't ever know what her decision would have become. We don't. And here's the thing. I'm glad. I'm glad. Look, people, might have a critique of my critique, and that's okay. We have a right. Look, you can like whoever you want to like. I support your ability to like people. There are some people that I actually might like, might even want to hang out with, but I don't want them in charge of stuff. Like my younger brother. Like him a lot. I do. Think he's very talented. Certain things I don't want to put him in charge of. I just don't. Now, if people in Boston decide to vote for him, that's on them. I hope he don't plan on running for office. I might have just ruined his political career. Sorry, little brother. But you get my point, you all. You can like people. There are folks who like me who didn't vote for me. I ain't mad at them. I get it. But I hope that I've at least displayed some level of competency, that decisions that I make will be decisions that are made in a collective way and for the greater good. So, for instance, when we called for a budget that spoke to Black lives, I didn't apologize for it. Some folks took issue with it. I'm just saying that regionally speaking, that we're talking about people who have been harmed and devastated by this pandemic. Just look at the hardcore numbers. Just look at the numbers, you all. Just look who's getting hit. We're talking. So look, the Chicago Teachers Union, just to give some context, in Chicago Public Schools have been in these so-called negotiations to establish some level of criteria or some guidelines about how we progress as school communities around a global pandemic. You all, that is, you understand how critical it is to work in collaboration, particularly in the midst of a pandemic. We had the president of Cook County Board of Commissioners on last week. One of the things that she did say, and I appreciate her saying this, look, we're going to go into rooms and we're going to have disagreements. We are. But we have to have patience with one another in order to be able to make a decision that we all can leave out of here and say, all right, look, this is the best course. I wish we would have done a little bit more of that, a little less of that, but I can live with this. There is nothing on the table right now that is providing parents with some degree of comfort as it relates to the current variant as is today. There's nothing. And so now we're forced to make decisions, not because we want to make this decision. We're forced to because it's the only decision that we are allowed to make. You either send your kid or you don't. And then what are the ramifications if you don't send your child? And what are the ramifications if you do send your child? People are saying that is the safest space. What are you basing that off of? Here's the thing. I've gotten phone calls from people that I love, that love me, that they're the head of a school, they're principals. Some of whom they're down 20 staff this morning already. They knew this last week that they would have 20 less staff just based upon the reporting that they've received thus far. There are children going into buildings right now with not enough adults to even care for them. Look, let me paint a picture for you all. Because unless you're in those school communities, you don't have a reference for it. It's out of sight. It's out of mind. I'm going to tell you what it's going to look like. It's chaotic. Children stuffed in cafeterias, auditoriums. They're going to be asking people who are not certified to stand in front of children. They are. I'm telling you. They are. That's whack. And look, all I'm saying is, because there's not a collaborative spirit coming from this administration, It's like it baffles me, quite frankly, because here's the thing. This pandemic is too big for all of us. There's not a single person in this country, in this world, that can say, I'm going to take on this pandemic. And for once and for all, I'm going to show you this pandemic what I'm made of. If you think you can take on this pandemic by yourself, you're a fool. And you're being foolish. It's irresponsible. You have to have a collaborative approach. That's all of us. If you don't think my level of anxiety is worthy, or a level of trepidation, or if you don't even think that the type of planning that I think should happen ahead of time is worthwhile, then let's at least have the debate in a public forum that allows us to critique the plans. How about making sure that there was testing available in the school communities before children even left? Why not make school communities testing sites and vaccination sites? There are enough hospitals in Chicago alone and throughout Cook County that suburban schools, city schools, no matter where you are, children should be able to show up in a school community. If in fact this is the safest place for them to be, why not have the school community be a regular testing site, vaccination site? Chicago Teachers Union held a couple of events within the last couple of weeks. Over 400, almost 500 families showed up to get a booster and a second dose. People showed up lines within a couple of hours. Almost 400 folks came to get tested just to see their status and make sure that they weren't putting other people in harm's way. That's not the only center where this could be happening. There's enough money right now, sisters and brothers, where we could be distributing throughout our communities to hire people, to pay people to set up these testing sites. Parents and other folks who are looking for income, maybe additional income, so that the ends can come a little bit closer at the end of the month, and maybe they might even meet to administer testing. How about this? Expanding our ability to actually create trauma-informed services for young people. Why are we not imagining a more just society? Why are we trying to fit? It's like, as the Bible says, we're trying to put new wine in old wineskin. This economy is shifting, and we're trying to put an old structure. We're trying to make this old structure fit what the current economy is calling for. And all it's doing is leaving more people in despair. Sisters and brothers, what I'm saying is, because maybe I'm not being clear enough, so I'll slow down. What I'm saying is that it is clear to me that the lack of planning, poor planning, and incompetence is the rule of the day. And it ain't right. It just isn't right. And this is not to say that I am more right. What I'm saying is, at the very least, you got to be able to come to the table and collaborate in order to defeat this. This is hard on everybody. It is. I didn't sleep my very best last night. I didn't. Actually haven't slept my very best the last couple of nights. Just thinking about it. My family, other people's families. What else can we be doing? What can I do in the role that I've been entrusted with so that people can actually live and be safe, feel safe, be safer? We've had tragedy at Jensen Elementary, Park Manor. I'm hearing there's breaking news now. Park Manor Elementary, they're doing a job action right now just to draw attention to the fact that the school is not safe. All of the teachers there. I commend you all. But why we always got to do this? We're constantly being put in a position where we have to take, these job actions to just call attention to the treatment of poor people. Because listen, y'all, that's what it is. The vast majority of the kids in the city of Chicago who go to the schools in the city of Chicago are poor. They're black. They're brown. There are more brown kids now. Does this happen in the school district where it is overly represented by white folks? Look, we got to start raising these questions. I know that some people get a little exhausted with this stuff. How do you think we feel on the opposite end of it, when you're constantly just being tagged over and over again simply because you're black, brown, and or poor. You know what it feels like every single day to wake up poor, black, and brown? You know what that feeling feels like? It feels like it feels heavy. It feels heavy. It's like getting out of a big waterfall into a roller coaster and then having to walk. That's the burden you feel every single day, just heavy, weighed down, slightly dizzy. Because it's coming at you at every angle. It just is, you all. And Pedro Martinez says that he feels very comfortable. He says very, very comfortable, in fact. I don't know how you say you feel very, very comfortable when you're seeing unprecedented numbers as it relates to COVID-19. Look, I'm not saying, well, look, I am saying, I think it's ridiculous, you all, that we're still having a debate on how to keep people safe in the midst of a pandemic that we have been under for the last 2 years. March officially would be 2 years in a couple of months. We know more. Check this out, y'all. And this is the thing. This is what's confusing people, too. This is what's confusing people. Check this out. There has been some concern about why we don't ask people at that 5-day period to get tested, Fauci said. Looking at it again, there may be an option in that. Testing could be a part of that. I think we're going to be hearing more about that in the next day or so from CDC. That's what Fauci said. So now, even after a 5-day period, now you don't got to get tested. They keep shifting and changing the how much time you should be in quarantine and whether or not you should be tested. Should students be tested before they come back to the school building to prove or to demonstrate, their status? Are we moving closer and closer to a vaccine mandate? Because here's the thing, that is still the safest thing that we can do, to get vaccinated, you all. I know folks have particular reasons. If those particular reasons aren't yours, whether it's your health or your religion, and I get it. But those of us who don't have, that criteria before a decision is made, I'm encouraging folks to get vaccinated. I am. We're opening up more opportunities at health clinics throughout Cook County, suburban Cook County, for folks to get vaccinated. They're still free to get a booster. They're still free. Get tested. Find out. I got to get tested again just to make sure. You all know I have a Sunday show. Candace and I, we didn't come into the studio on Sunday. It wasn't easy, but we did it remotely. Just want to be extra cautious. Because there are folks who are running around without symptoms and don't even know that they're positive, and other folks are getting sick. And that's what we don't want to see happen. I don't want to see a kid get sick, don't know that they're sick. Their parent gets sick. They don't know that they're sick. And then someone's grandparent gets sick, and now they're fighting for their lives or their life. Well, I still got 30 more minutes, y'all. I want to keep talking about this, you all, because I just think it's that important. Are you comfortable? Are you just exhausted and tired of this? Are there other ideas that we're just missing in terms of how we keep our children safe, not just here in Chicago, but all over the country? Fauci is saying, look, maybe you need to get tested, maybe not. There could be another option. We're going to check that out. Maybe the CDC might say something about it, maybe. Are you just as confused as the next parent is as it relates to this, you all? Look, it's still a great morning, you all. It's WCPT 820 AM, where the facts do matter. It's the Santita Jackson Show. My name is Brandon Johnson, Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, filling in for Santita Jackson, you all. It's still a great morning. Come right back, you all.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Safe Money Radio.
Risky investments should be retirement tools mostly used for the young or the extremely wealthy. It's too often they are used for those who are in or approaching retirement that cannot afford to lose their money. Also, just because your broker tells you it's safe doesn't make it true. Unfortunately, many investments, such as bonds, gold, and variable annuities, are often advertised as safe, even though they are far from being free from market risk.
Safe Money Radio, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on WCPT 820.
Why does Walgreens offer copays as low as $0 and 90-day refills? Because we care about Medicare, so you don't have to. I mean, do you really care to hear me go on about same-day prescription delivery making your life easier? Or how there's a pharmacy expert available 24/7 and one-click refills? Well, I just did anyways. Fill your Medicare prescriptions with Walgreens and save.
$0 copays apply to Tier 1 generic drugs and select plans with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Restrictions apply. See walgreens.com/Medicare for complete details.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
One accident has cleared, the one in Glendale Heights, North Avenue at Glen Ellen Road, but in Bloomingdale, eastbound Schick Road remains closed between Thorne Road and South Gary Avenue with an accident. Still a crash in Bartlett, West Stearns Road, west of Munger, and in Plainfield, Renwick Road at US 30, a crash. Northbound Tri-State, a right lane is blocked at St. Charles Road. Now we have several vehicles with flat tires from debris in the road there. On the expressways, we're just starting to see a couple of slow spots. The Kennedy inbound Diversey to Fullerton, a little bit tight there. And the inbound Dan Ryan, Cermak to the Circle, is starting to slow. Northbound I-57, a crash blocks the right lane after Pauling Road. That's traffic. I'm Bonnie Green.
Stephanie Miller.
Dr. Sarah Nyquist, an emergency medicine physician, said she was asked by a patient if she's a Republican or a Democrat. She said, "I am your doctor. You do wonder how we got here." I blame Donald Trump. I'm sorry.
I don't wonder how we got here.
When you say, how are we so politicized? Why did everybody just take the measles or smallpox or whatever? Because there was no Donald Trump poisoning everything.
Stephanie Miller, weekday mornings 8 to 11, sponsored by the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Visit 4Porsche.com, the number 4Porsche.com.
Hey, Jim! Thanks for coming.
Are you kidding? I never miss one of your dinner parties. How's the new job?
We're growing fast, and I stopped working weekends, thanks to how much smoother everything runs on NetSuite by Oracle.
Fantastic. We're still using QuickBooks.
Why haven't you upgraded to NetSuite?
We're making QuickBooks work, sort of.
Shh, watch your language. The kids are right there. Sorry, Amy. NetSuite gives you visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and more. NetSuite is everything you need to grow, all in one place. And 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control since upgrading from QuickBooks to NetSuite.
Yeah, sounds like it's time for me to switch to NetSuite. Over 27,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/radar. Head to netsuite.com/radar for this special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. netsuite.com/radar.
I need postcards printed and designed. Oh, and a targeted direct mail campaign.
It's possible at Staples.
I need my presentation printed, bound, and perfect.
Also possible. Your local Staples store can help your business navigate the future of work with custom printed sales and marketing materials. Now get 25% off custom printed labels, postcards, flyers, brochures, and more when you spend $60 or more. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store. Ends 1/29 in store only. See staples.com/print for details.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, good morning and welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show on this fine Monday, cold, snowy morning here in the city of Chicago. Thank you for those of you who are listening all over the country. We appreciate you here. Progressive Talk Radio, 820 AM, where the facts do matter. My name is Brandon Johnson, Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, filling in for Santita Jackson this morning. Yet again, listen, I've enjoyed my time here. I really have over the last few days filling in. You all are great. Thank you for those of you who are following us on social media and saying good morning there and showing love there. We appreciate that. And it really does matter, particularly at a time like this. Look, whether you're in a pandemic or not, I mean, we've experienced a great deal of loss in this country over the last couple of years especially. And I know these particular times of the year, when the holiday season is here or moving on, there are folks who did not cross over into the new year. and there are families that are missing their loved ones. So my thoughts are with you. Honestly, my prayers are with you. I know how difficult it is to lose relatives, to be without them, and you think about them day in and day out, and that's the comfort that this moment will provide, is their memory. And people aren't perfect, but they're ours, right? So just remember them today, and remember someone you all today that is going through a tough time. And however you wish to display that love, as long as it's an act of love, it will be received as such. So we thank you for that. Again, the phone lines are available to you all, 773-763-9278. I've been talking about a lot of different things this morning about the progressive cause, the progressive movement, the movement to bring a more stable economy to people who have suffered, and those who have suffered the longest. Quite frankly, people have been in line for a long time. You know, the art of justice, it bends, right? And that's the hope, that it bends a little bit closer to us. But this line is getting longer, though. There are more people who are living in extreme poverty in this country. The wealthiest country at the wealthiest time in the history of wealth. And we're talking about an economy that once upon a time literally relied upon slave labor. And that economy has still been incredibly wicked to people. And we have to be committed to shifting that. And so, like, even these, I'm not even sure if it's a debate right now, but this conversation around the reopening of schools. And let's just be honest, you all. I mean, this is attached to, it's a political decision that's attached to an economic decision. That our economy doesn't move the same when children are not in buildings. Now, look, I know what they'll tell you. You'll have individuals with their talking points. They'll talk about, learning loss and, whether children should be in buildings or not. And they learn more when they're in person versus remote. Look, of course, any interaction that you can have with humanity, of course, is going to be better if it's positive, obviously. But what are we really debating here, you all? We're really debating an economy. That's the debate. And we got to call it out. And so all I'm offering in these last couple of moments that we have together is challenge political leadership to collaborate. And you got to collaborate with the people who actually do the work. We can't keep attacking workers. We can't keep doing that. And those who claim to be Democrats who are attacking workers, shame on you. Go ahead and just join the party that really hates workers. But, wolves in sheep's clothing, it's just tired. It is. It doesn't even have to be personal, because it's not with me. Like, honestly, people who swear that I take this stuff personally, I don't even know most of these folks well enough to even take it personally. Like, when my brother says something to me, I take that personally. Like, dang, dog, we slept in the same room together. We grew up in the same house. Like, that stuff is personal. My sister, she might say something personal. But, like, it's like, I'm not walking around like, with a personal vendetta against any of my colleagues. I'm not. There are folks on my team that I challenge. There are folks that I agree with that I challenge. There are folks who agree with me who challenge me. I told you all last week, we showed up, broke ground, cut ribbon, 70-something units, brand new affordable housing, apartment units for seniors, and constituents of mine said, we need more from you, Johnson. And they are right. There's politicians who are walking around insecure, and they want people to just simply praise them and give them a high five for showing up behind a microphone. Yo, that's not good enough. That might have been fine for 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But now there's participation in this moment that is required. You don't want a dry, stale electorate that just simply accepts the food being spoon-fed to them or to us. So we have to set up regular testing in our school communities, work with the hospitals to make our school communities vaccination sites, get parents to get permission to get their children vaccinated. You got to make it available and accessible day in and day out. That is a worthwhile cause. Not to mention, not just this pandemic, but the fact that the city of Chicago has seen one of its highest numbers in murders than we've seen in a long time, y'all. Leadership matters in this moment if we're going to get it together. Maybe you got solutions. How about line one? Hey, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Is it Vic?
Yes, Brandon.
Hey, what's up?
I just want to say you're doing an excellent job with your narration there of the problems that exist. What we need to do, though, is really come up with some solutions. You know, since the 50s and the 60s, we need a type of revolution that involves a takeover of by voting in Democrats as a supermajority in Congress. That seems to me the only way that we're going to really attack the systemic racism and the inequities of our society. We know the Republicans have blocked voting rights. They're trying to block people from voting. So the answer has to be that we have to have a supermajority in Congress by the Democrats. And they are our only hope to make concrete changes in voting and racial discrimination in usually every aspect of society that is beneficial. The Republicans have been blocking everything. The Build Back Better bill, voting rights bill, and, you know, we can talk all we want, but unless we get a supermajority in Congress, nothing will change. The corporate Republicans and the two corporate Democrats are holding the United States as hostage in change and progression. So I appreciate everything you're doing to isolate all the different issues that confront America. But nothing will change until we get a supermajority of Democrats in Congress. You know, we can hem and haw and argue all we want and say, well, we need change and we need progressive policies, but that won't happen unless people of color get out there and vote and make sure that you have a voice. Otherwise, the voice is going to fall on deaf ears. And it's just not people of color.
Sure.
It's every poor person, every middle-class person, every working America is at risk with a party that's holding the United States hostage. And they have no platform, they have no policies, and they have no investment or future for the American people. They even tried to overthrow the government, for God's sake, to maintain power. We need to really get out there full force and change the government for the people and by the people, not for the elites, not for the very wealthy, not for the corporations, not for the billionaires, but for you and me and everybody.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you.
I understand that there's lots of issues that we need to confront, but nothing will change unless we get people to get out there and vote.
And thanks for the call, Vic.
That's our mission.
I hear you. And Vic is calling from Oregon, by the way, and I appreciate the call, Vic. Look, my only thing, though, Vic, is if we're waiting on Congress to change in order for the world to change, then the world won't change. The Congress changes when people decide it needs to change. And this is what I mean by that. See, I don't think you need a supermajority of any one particular party in order for change to take place. You didn't have a supermajority when the previous administration was in, and see how much changed. It's applied political pressure. I agree. I actually believe that starts at the local level, because it's not just Republicans blocking progress, right? It's the corporatization of politics that's stopping progress. And both parties have been infected by the corporatization of just the political economy in which we exist in today. And so that's a struggle. I mean, whether you are in Oregon or if you're in the state of Illinois, I mean, we've had our share of battles right here in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. We've had an awful mayor. Rahm Emanuel was terrible. He was an absolute monster. There are people who liked him and voted for him. He absolutely terrorized communities of color and got rewarded. What I'm saying is, Vic, you're not wrong, man, in terms of forcing Congress to change. I don't know if that requires an entire party shift. It just depends on who it's happening to. And as long as it's happening to the people that you just described, yes, more is being asked and required of us, Vic. And you said it right. Poor folks got to do it. White folks got to do it. They got to get out and vote. But there is a heavy burden, is what I said, Vic, earlier in the show. There is a burden when you wake up black, brown, when you wake up poor. It's like there's a sluggishness. Even in your best day to find strength, the weight is still heavier. Let's go to line 2. I'm trying to get through the calls. Hey, Shirley. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show.
Hi, good morning. I agree with you with, everything that you've said. I have chosen, my entire life to work in inner city neighborhoods, both in Chicago and when I was living in Miami, Florida. I've been through some of the worst hellacious circumstances you can ever think of. The pandemic just makes, very apparent, how bad the system truly is, from the schools to the hospital systems. We do not place a dollar value on children, the way that we should. This goes from poor neighborhoods all the way to rich ones. I can say that because I live out in Willowbrook. I'm right next door to Hinsdale. You had people knocking down and, building, huge mansions, yet they would not put money into the school systems to have their kids in, it's like larger schools. They were stuffing them into trailers. As I said, this is across the country. My niece and my nephew in South Florida took some of their classes in trailers because, there was nothing else available. We have a government, that doesn't, it's like allocate funding appropriately. We have some, really great people who care, parents, etc. But we have just as many, who don't care. For example, I used to work at Children's Memorial Hospital, and that hospital needed to be rebuilt a long time ago. And I'd gone to nursing school at Northwestern, University. It was only when Northwestern University gave what is now Lurie Children's the piece of property to build that hospital on, and Ann Lurie, who contributed a pile of money to build that hospital, that hospital, could be built. I'm going to be honest with you. I knew from the very beginning with this pandemic, because I worked in Miami, Florida, when we had, the AIDS pandemic there. We had millions of people die, and that is where we found out that AIDS spread to children, simply because people were poor and they came through in the Caribbean. However, at least down there, the public health system has a special tax for the hospital, and, people try, hard to keep the public health care system going. In February of 2020, when this pandemic started, I called my congressman and I said, listen, this is what I think is going to happen, and you better get all of this kind of equipment in, because this is going to be very nasty. I have taken care of intensive care patients with both viral and bacterial sepsis. We simply don't have the amount of people, equipment, space available.
You're saying, Shirley, this is still a resource issue as far as you're concerned, and you're relating this back to what we've experienced even during the AIDS epidemic.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. It depends upon the people, that you work with. I remember a very wonderful physician, a professor at the University of Miami, Jackson Memorial Hospital. It is a huge county university hospital with 1,500 beds, the second largest healthcare system in the country. Also, it's a huge trauma center, rider trauma. People worked together. People advocated. I remember that doctor coming in and telling me, make sure that you double gown, double glove, because at the time, we really didn't know what we were dealing with.
Right.
What has happened since that time, in the last, 30 years, the government, doesn't reimburse depending upon the state, that you live in. And the insurance companies, have cut the funding to the hospitals. Almost nobody gets to stay in a hospital long term anymore unless you're an intensive care patient, and go over to the outpatient center. When you look around at, say, nurses, teachers, most of the people doing this kind of work are women. How are women supposed to take care of their own children, the elderly? Sometimes they're on their own and, go to work. I mean, I've seen my sister raise 2 kids like this and be a nurse, and she's still working this pandemic. What I feared was going to happen is happening, where, you have so many, people with, thoughts that are incorrect, that they're getting, the virus, and the virus keeps on mutating. And then we're finding...
And they don't have the lived experience that you're talking about. Shirley, we're coming up to the end of the show here, and I do appreciate the call and the perspective that you've brought, especially their perspective around like who is on the front line. And we're talking about women overwhelmingly, nurses and teachers, and you can't ignore that. And I wish we had more time to just kind of dig into that, but the time stops when it stops. So thanks for the call, Shirley. But what I will say though, to Shirley's point, that our public health system, that's where our greatest investments need to be. Vic is asking for solutions, more investment in our public health system, dollars and resources to incentivize folks who want to be nurses to help them become nurses, give nurses the ability to go back and get their degrees, give them better pay, hire more nurses, right, so that we can reduce the caseloads of nurses, right? I believe that we have to have more investment in our public education system. Investments that help develop a well-rounded child so that they can move into a productive state as an adult. Those investments are critical. I mean, the job opportunities in healthcare that we can create we haven't even begun to imagine the type of jobs that can come from our healthcare system. There's a hospital on the west side of Chicago that's just a couple of blocks away from where I live. And 70% of the patients there are there as a result of the Affordable Care Act and the expansion of the Affordable Care Act through what we refer to as county care here in Cook County. 40,000 additional families received health benefits as it relates to being on county care. Check it out, though. 40% of those who work at that hospital live in the Austin zip code. So people receive health care and they receive jobs as we expand opportunities to health care. The only reason why you would not want to expand those opportunities is because you see that there is a profit line for you to gain with more folks unemployed and sick. And that's the type of structural inequality that we are dismantling. Another solution, we have to move away from our addiction to this carceral state that we've created in this country. Militarization of our armed forces, as well as the militarization of just our police forces, have not led to safer communities. Creating jobs and expanding public sector jobs and public sector employment is really where we have tremendous opportunity still. You know, Cook County, we have this enormous amenity in Cook County through the forest preserves. And so we have folks who are thinking a little bit outside of the box as it relates to the forest preserves and how we not only, shift our environment so that it is stronger and it's sustainable, but there are jobs that are created as a result of that. There's still opportunity for us to get it right here in Chicago. Let's not end up like other places in the world where you have haves and then those of us who are fighting each other. That is not the society that we want to raise our children in. That's not the society we want our children to inherit. We don't want to walk amongst this level of truth and then ignore it. And then the generation that comes behind us, they'll judge us because we had truth and we ignored it. And as Shirley said, look, there is a light that has illuminated all that which we fear. And guess what? Now that we see it, y'all, we can defeat it. We can. It's not as scary as they make it out to be. And when I say they, I'm talking about those who have the interests of corporations that want us to believe that if we do certain things, wages, if we raise wages, the price of living is going to go up and you're not going to be able to afford a cheeseburger because you're paying somebody a decent wage. Man, all that bull crap that people keep throwing towards us, it's not as scary if we confront it together. We're stronger if we do it together, you all. We are. And as long as we defeat the adversary that wants to divide us based upon racial lines and even economic lines, we can defeat that. We can create a more economic and just society that works for everybody. Listen, y'all, I've enjoyed my stay here. I want to just send a special shout out to all of our educators, our nurses, our frontline workers who are showing up every single day to defeat and tear down this wicked disease. I want to encourage folks to continue to stay vigilant. Wear your mask, stay clean, you all. Get vaccinated, get the booster. It is saving lives. I've enjoyed my time filling in for Santita Jackson. This is the Santita Jackson Show. Whenever she calls, I'll be here. My name is Brandon Johnson. I get to serve as a Cook County Commissioner of the 1st District. Special shout out to all the folks living on the west side, western suburbs. I love you all. Thanks, Devin, man, for holding down for me for the last couple of hours, the last few days, for real. So happy New Year to you all. I want you all to stay warm as much as you possibly can and continue to support and love one another as we fight through these very difficult times. God bless you all. Love you. Peace.
Tom Hartman.
Donald Trump made being a psychopath fashionable. He made it acceptable. And his neurological tribe of psychopaths are like out. They are here. And as a consequence of this, people who have Biden-Harris stickers on their cars or a pride flag in their window are facing vandalism, arson, and worse.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program, weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts
My name
matter.
is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
I need postcards printed and designed. Oh, and a targeted direct mail campaign.
It's possible at Staples.
I need my presentation printed, bound, and perfect.